Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Well, hello, everybody. It's Holden back here again with the Sober Unicorn. Hope everybody's doing absolutely incredible. If you're not, don't hesitate to reach out to me here at the Sober Unicorn or any of the guests that have shared their social media platforms. Today, we have a guest by the name of Sonia. Hello, Sonia.
Hi, Holden. How's it going?
It's going really good. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
Good. I'm gonna kind of give everybody a precursor warning. Here in South Florida, we're dealing with a major thunderstorm rolling in. So if you hear thunder in the background, I'm gonna try to mute as much as possible. But I mean, if you do hear it, it's hurricane season, so we can't avoid it. So Sonia and I actually met. Oh my God, no, this not on Instagram this time, like everybody else. You reached out to me via email. Where did you find us?
I just I love sobriety podcasts. And so I'm always like looking for a new one and like I loved it. I listened to it and I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to see that there's like more of a reach than just like my inner circle and stuff like that. It's amazing. And so Sonia, of course, we're going to discuss like your story and then of course the company you created. So I know that in our emails we kind of discussed like we'll jump right into the hard stuff so we can get into the amazingness of sobriety. You said that you went through a divorce and that was like extremely difficult for your journey. So like
Yeah.
of course, how did you get sober and then fast forward immediately to kind of like the divorce and how you maintained your sobriety?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had probably like a lot of people started drinking when I was pretty young, like 14, 15, and, binge drank for a really long time. And then when I finally started working full time, I thought, well, I can drink wine every night now. I don't have homework. And so I would say my drinking now, looking back, was always out of control. I don't think I'm one of those people where it progressed to like, a problem. I think it was always a problem. I think from the first time I drank, I was like, thought I had found the answer to like all my problems. So, yeah, it wasn't a hard decision in the sense that I knew like we weren't going to try to cut back to a glass of wine. We weren't going to try to cut back to just smoking weed. Like that was, I knew inherently that wasn't going to work. And I come from a long line of alcoholics that really prove that that doesn't work for me. And so I think that's also why it took me a long time to make the decision because I think I knew that once I did it, I was the kind of person that had to sort of decide if I was going to quit forever. I don't think people should do that, but I think that's what I was waiting for, that decision to say, like, I can go to a wedding and not drink. I, can have a glass of wine at dinner. Like, and that, yeah, to give that up was probably one of the hardest things, like, give that concept up.
I have not been to a wedding sober yet, but that is one of the things I've always told myself. You only go to the wedding if it's an open bar. And then I question, I mean, I don't have a relationship, I'm single, but I question sometimes like when I get married, will I have an open bar at the wedding? Because a lot
Yes.
of my family's podunk hillbilly, nothing against that, but like for them to see me get married to a man and kiss a man, they may need some vodka or some tequila to handle that. So you said like kind of you went from 100 down to zero. Like you had to make that decision of like fully stopping.
Yeah.
Did you have to seek treatment? I mean, how did you
You
stop
know,
it?
yeah, I was really lucky physically that I don't think I had like major withdrawal. I was certainly like uncomfortable. Like I was really uncomfortable and shaky but nothing like that seemed like a medical issue. And so yeah, I had a particularly bad night and I had it in my mind the week before, like at least we have to try. Like we have to try cutting back like to zero. And so I was out to brunch with a girlfriend of mine who was pregnant, so she wasn't drinking. And the waiter was like, "Do you want a mimosa?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." And that's like the first time I'd ever said no to a drink. And so that was just how it started. And then, yeah, I just kind of like kept going, kept going, kept going. And so I just got really lucky too that my life also calmed down. Like I had been running a large business and we sold the business. We had sold it a little bit before I had gotten sober. So I think that's also why I was able to do the kind of one and done, because like life had kind of calmed down. A lot of people try to quit in the midst of, a really dramatic part in their life, like losing a job or a spouse. And so I think I was lucky in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I know my last drink was kind of chaotic, and when I was after that weekend in Georgia, I was like, you have to stop. It's there wasn't any more of just try to taper down. I tried that so many times, and it's impossible.
Yeah, it's really like, what is the thing in AA? Like a pickle into a cucumber into a pickle, you can't go back. And so
It's like one
yeah,
is too many, a thousand is never enough.
yeah, I just knew it wasn't something I could reel back in. It had gone too far, which is probably how you kind of felt too, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I flew to Georgia. I mean, anybody that's like listened to a majority of the episodes flew there to get photos of a cemetery. I'm like a macabre person, and met up with a friend there, and the entire weekend was just alcohol and
Yeah.
no photos of any cemetery, no sightseeing in Georgia. And I was like, I sat down with myself and I was like, you are ruining what you love to do in life because of alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was even where I didn't even know what I loved to do, because I think I had started drinking so early. But I had no hobbies, I had no interests. And so that really struck me when I was sort of like playing around with the idea of not drinking. I tried to make this decision a few times, like on Monday nights, I'm going to read. And Monday night would roll around and I would be trashed. No one's reading anything like other than like a comic book. Like, yeah.
Oh my god, I hate reading. I was like, that's like not the first choice I would go for. So of course you didn't did you seek out a 12-step program, or did you like have your own um way of like figuring out like yourself and your future and everything?
Yeah, so I was really lucky. My brother had been in AA. By the time I quit, he had been in AA about 6, 7 years. And so, we talked all the time, texted all the time. He was super, super supportive. In the other sort of aspects of my life, I was just trying to figure out who I was. And so I was just kept myself very busy with things. I started like volunteering. I was on the board of a nonprofit. And so I think those things slowly started to like, I wouldn't say change my value system, but like dust it off. That, I think I want to be of service. I don't know how best to do that. So I started writing about my sobriety. I took a photography certificate and I started making images about my sobriety. And, but I was still anonymous in that sense, still hidden. And I think that my brother relapsed, and shortly after I got sober. And so that's when I realized I needed help, that I had lost that connection. And so, yeah.
And it's kind of like a huge blessing. Like you said, you sold your company kind of right before you got sober. So most people still have that mundaneness of having to go to work, the stress of work. Okay, and they need to wind down. So you were in this kind of like kind of bubble where you could go anywhere in life. You could take your time for self care, yoga, hot yoga, whatever. I mean, whatever you wanted to do.
I could, yeah. I mean, I think my personality didn't allow for like full-time self-care, like as a job, but that would have been a great idea. I think I just felt this like, I think in the sense that I was like, I couldn't connect to my brother. Like I couldn't, there was nothing I could do for him. And it's like I wanted to do something for someone. Does that make sense? Like it's like I can't help him, but is there someone I can help? And so yeah, I was volunteering in prisons, and that's when I started talking about my addiction. A lot of people that are incarcerated have issues with substance abuse, and so it just kind of like popped out one day, and then I just started talking about it.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you said being of service. Like right now, being on a podcast, you're being of service. The thing is you may not be able to see who you reach, but it does reach people. And sharing your story is extremely important. I think when people that are suffering, they want to know that like they can relate to somebody and be like, see that person, like, oh my god, it is possible for me to get sober. So, well, fast forward a little bit into kind of the divorce situation. I know divorce, breakups, I mean, anything can be traumatic for a lot of people. So it's, I mean, how did you navigate that while not going back to the wine?
Yeah, I mean, it was really tough. So I was with my ex-husband for 18 years. We had built a business together, sold a business. I had gotten sober, just all the things. Like we were a family with two dogs. And so he had a very significant midlife crisis. I think he would also agree that that's what it was. And like I don't know if you're familiar with Vanderpump Rules, but that is what happened to me. And so, and interestingly enough, what was so similar that I still am angry about was, oh, well, I couldn't break up with you because of your drinking, because of your mental health issues. Are you going to, I thought you would start drinking again. I thought you would threaten to harm yourself. And it's like, but I didn't. So that was interesting. That someone would use that against you. And I wonder if there are people out there that sort of are feeling the same thing where their significant other is sort of using their recovery against them. And
I mean,
so,
I see that on a different kind of light. I see that the other way. I see that as him trying to be mindful about how it would affect you and your sobriety. Because I mean, even though the divorce may have happened, it's that you were part of each other's lives for 18 years. They're still going to care for you.
yeah, I mean, I hear it, but the way in the way it came off, it sounded like an excuse because it wasn't said with a lot of love.
The tone of voice is everything.
Yes, it was said with like Andrew, like, what are you gonna do? Go drink? And so I think that's what struck me. And so he left, and I had almost no warning. Maybe the day before or 2 days before, I got the sense something was off. But we were still great as a couple. We were having dinner, we were sleeping in the same bed, we were walking our dogs. Like there was nothing out of the norm. And so he left. I was in New York, and I don't even know how to explain the breakdown. It was like, why would I be sober? What's the point? Why did I do this in the first place? The only thing that can fix this is drinking. The pain that I was in, I was almost in like a physical amount, like a physical pain. And so I thought about it. I thought I don't have the skills because I had, jokes on me. I had a great 5 year run. And as soon as something really hard happened, I just didn't know how to stay sober. Like I didn't want to light candles and, journal. Like I wanted to like light the house on fire. And so I went back. I remember thinking I want to drink, and I went back to my apartment and I logged on to a meeting, like a non-12 step, like community meeting. And it helped in the sense that one, I love being around people in recovery. And two, it's like it made me realize, like, again, like how lucky I was to have 5 years and what some of these people who are at day 3, day 4, what they would do to have 5 years. And I'm gonna throw it away over this jerk. And so I want to use a stronger word, but I'm not going to. And so yeah, and I that sort of would, kept me going for the first few weeks and months. Was just connecting, like just hearing people's stories, listening to podcasts of people that were sober. I don't think that if you aren't sober, you don't recognize having to rebuild your life as part of the sober journey, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, you kind of have to start over again, yet again. I mean, I moved to Florida to get clean again after relapsing in Texas, but um, you have to rediscover who you are as a person, who you are in a relationship, because being a drunk person in like my last relationship, don't get me wrong, like me and him are still very good friends, so there was nothing against him, but I mean, our relationship was based off alcohol. And so during sober times, we were not a good couple. We can only tolerate each other while drunk.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while and I still have not like tried sober dating. I'm
It's
not
hard.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure when that, when I'm gonna cross that bridge. But yeah, so that was basically how I got through it. I'm really lucky. I have two sister-in-laws that were at separate times married to my brother, who is an alcoholic. And so they had some understanding of like what a trigger would be. And so I leaned really heavily on them, and I'd never done anything like that. I was always the one that was like doing well, like, what are you doing? What are the kids doing? Like, not really the one with like calling saying I have a problem. And so it was so uncomfortable at the beginning.
And seeing, like, as you said, the newcomer, seeing that person with 3 days, I mean, it's like, it kind of reminds you where you were at when you first started. I mean, me, when I see somebody that just walked in and they're picking up a 24-hour chip or whatever, or medallion, whatever it is, that they're, whatever program they're in at that time, and you look at them and you're like, a small slip up at work is not worth having to go through that again. It's not worth having to struggle bus again. And I've suffered relapse, and the thing is, getting back up is a lot harder, I felt, than coming in the first time around, because
Wow.
well, the first time around, I'm like, girl, you got a problem, get help.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I had 9.5 months at that time before the relapse, and then it's like, I knew going into using why I shouldn't be doing it, why it was a bad choice, but like I still drove to that house.
Ah, yeah,
So
no, I get it. Like you made a conscious decision that time, whereas the beginning of the addiction, or like it was like I didn't decide it, it just happened.
exactly. I mean, I remember on the way to that house, I had a necklace on with like my sober date imprinted on it. And I
Oh,
remember on the way there taking that pendant off and throwing it in the glove box because I knew what I was going to be doing. And it's actually, I just found it in my car today. And so that's the craziness of like addiction is, and that's why I feel being involved, the sense of community is insanely important. And that's kind of where we're going to segue to next is, for me, being in a 12-step program, I have this massive fellowship that I can get connected with.
yeah.
You didn't seek out a 12-step. So um how did you find a sober community, and then talk about what you created to help people find community within sobriety?
Yeah. So I was fine like when the divorce happened and I was going to meetings. I didn't want to share necessarily. I just wanted to listen and hear what was going on with people. And then when it sort of came time for me to think about sharing, the Zoom room was 200 people. And it was like raise your Zoom hand and vent. Like raise your Zoom hand and be like, this is what happened. This sucks. And then on to the next person. So no feedback. And AA is like that, no crosstalk. And so I thought, I don't think that's what works for me. Let me look for something with, and I don't know if you found, no, I don't think you have found this, but when I got sober, I became a lot more introverted. I don't think you did, but and so yeah, I didn't want to be like the center of 200 people's attention. And so I looked for, a smaller sober group of people that were maybe going through something similar, like rebuilding their life and trying to maintain their sobriety. And it just got me thinking when I couldn't find it, like, why isn't this out there? And I still don't really know the reason it wasn't out there, but I thought, well, I built a business once. Maybe I can do it again, but I was still like incredibly depressed, in really bad shape about the divorce. So I just kind of slowly started like doodling, the concept of small groups where people are struggling with the same thing. So whether that's like a job burnout or like any sort of transition, like life transition, maybe parenting, things like that. And I was like, there's an endless number of groups that you could, or criteria that you could like match people on. So just really liked the idea of being around people that I also didn't have to repeat my story. So what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to come in and be like, so my husband left, like every single time. I wanted to be more like, oh, how are you doing? Did you eat properly this week? Like, for someone to know already kind of where I was. And so that was another thing that was really important to me, was to create consistent groups. So you get matched into a group and then you stay with that group. And yeah, I thought
Really?
that is what I need. If that's what I need, maybe it's what other people need too. And so I slowly started making Everbloom. And at first, I just was like talking to people in recovery and saying, like, do you think this is missing? Is this a void in the recovery space? Would you go to something like this? And I got a lot of good feedback. And then around Christmas, I started taking signups. Like, if this was a thing, would you, do it? And I got like a crazy number of signups. I couldn't believe it. Like, I could not believe it. And so, yeah, and beginning of the year, I said, let's make the first group. Let's just make the first group. It happened that most of the people that had contacted me were in their first 30 days. So I think that's a really special, unique time. And so, I created a group that was, essentially like the first 6 months of sobriety. And then it just kind of kept blossoming from there. And I run the groups. And so the nice thing was, I was like, I could find some things. I was like, why are there 7 healthcare workers in this group? Like, let's do a healthcare workers group. Or like 4 people are struggling with parenting. Like, let's do the parenting group. And so yeah, that's just how it happened. And it's going awesome. There's the people in the groups are so close. I can't believe it. Like, beyond what I thought.
So is this an app? Is this a website that you sign up for?
Yeah, so it's a website that you sign up for. If people want, they book like a 10-minute session with me. Instead of filling out like a survey of what they're going through, they can just tell me what they're struggling with. And then they get matched into a group, and everything's on the site, and it's like Zoom based. And there's a Slack channel that's like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's where they really connect. And I didn't expect that. I remember I was at a cocktail party, miserable, on a Saturday night a couple of months ago, and my watch buzzed, and it was someone who was like, it's Saturday night, I don't know what to do with myself, um like, I need help. And like 3 people jumped on and were like, try doing this. Did you go for a walk? Did you do a bath? Like, there's this really great mocktail recipe I have. And so that really, I don't know, it's like really emotional for me to see them give each other that support.
Oh, for sure. I had somebody on the podcast that he ran. It was called oh my god, something. Can't remember for the life of me. Ben's Friends, I believe it was. It was a group of people in the service industry, people that were waiters, cooks, bartenders that were sober because they understand what they go through. There's so many bartenders that are in the bathroom snorting lines to get through the rest of their shift. Same as you said, healthcare workers. There's so many people. Like, I was in the funeral industry, I was a mortician, and I couldn't go to my friend and that's outside of that industry and discuss what I saw that day because, for one, it grosses them out. For
Yeah.
two, it's they don't want to hear about death and dead people and the gory details. So it's like it would have been nice if I had found somebody in recovery that I could discuss that with and like talk to. So I mean, and the sense of being able to find a community outside of a 12-step meeting is good because I think that's so far been my biggest struggle is yes, my 12-step friends are great, but I want to see you outside of the meeting. Like,
Yes.
can we go bowling? Can we go to a concert? Can we go like painting? I mean, I think the activities outside of the meetings are really lacking for me at least. So I mean, I wish there was something. I mean, that could be something Everbloom could look into in the future.
For sure, in the future. Yeah, I've been thinking about like retreats for the different groups. Yeah, for sure. They want to meet in person, which is
Mhm.
interesting. I thought that if people want anonymity, sort of like, they can have it, because these are random groups. They're not, geographically linked. And so yeah, but people are like, let's go on a retreat.
The retreats are great. I know Narcotics Anonymous recently did a retreat down in the Keys in South Florida. It brought like 6,000 people. I mean, don't get me wrong, like that's way too much. I would have sensory overload,
Yeah,
but to see just to know that that many people are in one place sober having a grand old time is incredible.
it is. It's amazing. It is. It's something like it's super special too. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I say this every episode, like fellowship, find people in recovery to talk to, because like you not going to meetings, it's hard to find that fellowship. It's hard to find that clique of close people you can trust and call it any moment of the day and say I'm struggling right now. And I think that's amazing that Everbloom has essentially now started becoming that for
Yeah.
people, the 24-hour rooms, which I think is great because for me, I mean, I did other substances beyond alcohol, and I'm a night owl. At 1 in the morning, I don't want to call my friends in recovery. I need a 24-hour room that I can go in and just be like, I just need to talk to somebody, anybody, and just say, hey, girl, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like sometimes that's all you need. Like I would text like my sister-in-laws and just something like not even about anything, just like a random text, like I got a new lotion today. And they knew from like the tone of my text that I wasn't doing well. And they would call like 10 seconds later. I'm like, what? I just talked about the lotion. She said, but it's how you talked about it. And I was like, okay. So yeah, there is something just to like hearing, some encouragement, like, or just like a hey.
Exactly. So, what is the biggest gift sobriety has given to you?
Oh, I mean, it gave me my life back. I don't even know if I can like pin it down. I think that if my marriage was going to fail, I think that being sober was one of the greatest things that could have happened to me. And being able to kind of think about other people while I was going through that and say, like, what can we do for sober people? What can we do for sober people? That gave me so much comfort. And it gave not like, oh, it gave me something to do, it just gave me something to work on that had a purpose.
That's good. I mean, honestly, that's like the best answer anybody could have.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is that some people always be like, "Oh, he gave me a car, he gave me a job." It's like, yeah, but that's the thing is we could be happy without that stuff. I mean, so I here currently I'm in halfway house in Florida. Yes, I work and everything, but it's like just to know that I'm okay and that I have a roof over my head. I don't need the exuberant everything. It's just like I've been here in Florida 6 months now. I was out of a job for a month and a half of the 6 months, and like people made sure I was okay. So I mean, getting your life back, being able to start over and actually succeed, I think is like a huge, huge, huge thing that sobriety has given me. Because I mean, beforehand, when I was like years ago, of course, when I was like let go from a job, I'd immediately go to the bar and spend whatever money I had left in my bank account.
Yes.
So, before we come to the close of the episode, is there anything that you haven't shared with everybody that you would like to?
I think one thing that we were just talking about right before the episode was like trying to make like, do you have to make the decision you will never drink or use again when you are thinking of quitting? And I think the answer for me was like, I think so because I couldn't reel it back in, but it doesn't have to be the answer for everyone. And I think that it's something that keeps a lot of people from seeking help is well, I'm not sober. And it's like, let's just like clean the slate and just say you want to change your relationship with alcohol. It's unhealthy. You want it to be healthy, whether that means you never drink again or it means you once a year have a glass of champagne at a wedding. Let's figure it out. And so I think that yeah, I think we need to kind of like destigmatize a little bit that like it has to be like sobriety, abstinence for everyone. It does have to be that for me. It has to be
Mm-hmm.
that for you. Um, but that was my journey.
Yeah, 100%. I we were discussing before the episode was there's so many avenues on how to get clean and sober. I know what works for me, which is abstinence from everything except caffeine. Um, but never mind, I won't go vulgar. I have a joke about caffeine, but I will not go there. Um, I'll tell you after the episode. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, I have a friend, she's 6 years off of heroin, but she smokes weed. The
Yeah.
thing is, do I agree with that? No. But at the end of the day, if it keeps a syringe out of her arm,
Yes.
girl, go for it. The thing is weed's not going to, for right now, I mean, never know what the future holds, but weed is not going to have her overdose on the side of the street. So,
Yeah.
which I'm thankful for. So, I mean, everybody's sobriety looks different. But yeah, thank you. So if anybody, of course, wants to find Everbloom, find you, talk to you, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can go to joineverbloom.com if you want to just chat for a few minutes. There's a link that you can schedule directly with me to talk for 5-10 minutes. And we're Join Everbloom or Everbloom on every social platform.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for joining us today.
Thank you, Holden. This was really fun.
Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember, everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.